Hi everyone, this is Twinkle from Frontlist Media, and today we're here for another session. This session is with Miss Priya Arora and Mr. Nalin Verma. Miss Priya Arora is a spiritual seeker, animal lover, and dedicated follower of Advaita Vedanta. Her writing aims to emphasize the universal relevance of ancient Vedic wisdom in today's world. Priya was born and raised in India and later graduated from Oxford University and a degree in English literature. Her first book, Ram, a Man of Dharma, illustrates the Vedic principle of choosing ethical actions in every situation, regardless of personal consequences. Her latest book, Life is a Battlefield, focuses on the eternal wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita and how it holds the key to living a happy and fulfilled life. Priya lives in San Francisco Bay Area with her husband, children, and beloved French bulldog Humphrey. Oh, that's a cute name.
Yeah.
Our second guest for the day is Mr. Nalin Verma. Mr. Nalin Verma is a senior journalist, author, and media educator of repute. He has worked at senior editorial positions at The Telegraph, ABP, The Hindustan Times, and The Statesman. He has authored Gopalganj to Rasina, My Political Journey, memoir of Bihar leader Lalu Prasad Yadav, and The Greatest Folk Tales of Bihar, which are widely reviewed and extensively popular with the readers. He regularly writes his columns at several news opinion outlets, including The Wire, The Frontline, Hindu, The Telegraph, and the BBC, etc. He has taught as a professor media studies at the lovely Professional University, Jalandhar, Punjab, and Inverters University, Bareilly, Uttar Pradesh. He has over 30 years of experience with the industry concerned and educational institutions. So I welcome you both of you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
And you didn't mention my latest book, The Lords of Love and Saint Gorakhnath. It is the latest book from Penguin.
Oh wow, that's nice. So I will just edit that Mr. Nalal's latest book, The Lords of Love, is also
And
out. Yes. So my first question to both of you is what does awakening mean to you personally? And how do you see it manifesting in the lives of people today who are constantly surrounded by noise, technology, and emotional overload?
first,
How do you
let
want us to go?
Priya answer it.
Okay. Well, this is it's, as I said, it's a really good question because it's one of the things we struggle with in today's world. And the reason for the struggle actually is that we do not recognize ourselves as who we really are. So, there are two aspects to ourselves. One is our spiritual aspect, which is based on ourselves as Atman. The other aspect is the physical aspect of the body, the mind and body, you could say together, mind-body complex. And most of us, we are very familiar only with that aspect. And we live based on that aspect. So when you live based on the mind and body, then you live with stress, you live with fear, you live with unhappiness, and all those negative feelings are only associated with the body. When you identify with yourself as beyond the body, as the eternal spirit, when you live according to that definition of yourself, then you live with freedom, you live with happiness, and you live with fearlessness. So, if you want to be spiritually awakened as a person, it's not based on, you don't have to go away to the forest, you don't have to take sannyas to discover your spirituality. You just have to understand who you really are and that is spiritual awakening. To live as at the spiritual level and at a higher vibrational frequency. That's what it is. Because all our actions then manifest accordingly at that level. When you think of yourself as a spiritual being and not as just the body. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I will put it over to Nalin.
Okay, Priya, thank you very much for telling in a spiritual manner and in spiritual tools that you have in abundance. I can contextualize it only in my personal context as a writer. You know how. See, for me, the awakening was the realization at the very outset of my life. I was living in a village. I was born and brought up in a village, and living among a lot of storytellers, who were illiterate, but they had their stories. And in those times, there was no electricity, no roads, no communication, no schools, To people, the cowherds, the farmers, they used to tell a lot of stories about the Rama, about the Sita, ballads, and the local gods, the ghosts, all these people. And that was the farm songs, the irrigation songs, the marriage songs, and many stories around. They all have their own stories, like Rani Saranga, yogi songs. So when I grew, and I moved to the cities and urban areas, then I started missing all these milieu, which then I thought that I should be rooted to the stories that I have learned more than what I am studying in the Jawaharlal Nehru University or Patna University or wheresoever I went to among the friends. It was a different life, But I started missing those things, the stories that I had heard from my mother, from my granny, from the crow I used to watch at the tree, and the birds, and the ghosts I was missing. I started missing. Then I realized that even if I have become a journalist dealing with the political personalities, celebrities, but for me, the awakening was the recalling of the stories which I had heard in the very childhood, and concomitantly I started recollecting those stories, writing those stories. Whereas for my bread and butter, I started doing my journalism, in which I did quite well. But to me, the awakening or writing was a journey in the self, and and that is how my books, the folk tales, the greatest folk tales, or this book also, The Lords of Love and Saint Gorakhnath, this Lalu Prasad's biography was a journalistic work, basically. But these books are the journey in the self and discovering myself. How I think, Priya, you can put it in a contextual form in which I may not be able to, because I'm not a astrologer or something, or not rooted to. Of course, I have read a lot of books about the Rama and the Vedas, Gitas and Mahabharata. All these things I have read over the years, but I have weaved my stories on the basis of my experiences and putting it with the studies and the craft of writing. So for me, the self awakening is the knowledge about how I grew and what were the original things that I have to write, and to me it was some sort of awakening. I hope you can contextualize it better.
Sure. No, it makes sense. When I was talking about awakening, I see exactly what you're saying. I was talking about it from the point of view of us discovering that we are more than just our material selves, from the Vedantic point of view.
Yeah.
So from the Vedantic point of view, the whole of Vedanta says that our purpose is to discover yourself as the Atman. So Aham Brahmasmi. Yeah. That once you've understood that concept of Aham Brahmasmi, then there's nothing more you don't need to be born again, actually. You have achieved the purpose of all these many births that we take. Because then you're identifying with the Atman. So I was talking about from that point of view. But, I fully take what you mentioned about awakening and going back to those stories that you said that you heard as as a child.
As a child.
Because those stories, in fact, Ramayana, Mahabharata, all these stories, even the Puranas, they are actually designed for spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
They are designed to awaken you spiritually, to awaken you to your higher self. So that's what it is. So it may be a different way. What I was talking about philosophy, you're talking about it in a more practical way.
Yeah.
But I think we're saying the same thing in a way.
Thank you.
Yes, more or less. So, my next question to both of you is that both of your works draw from ancient wisdom. So, how can timeless spiritual teachings be made relevant and accessible without losing their depth, essence, and their value in the modern world?
Do you want to take that, Nalin? And you take that since I took the first one, and then I'll add after.
See, there are certain things which I feel that they are very timeless, like the emotion of the people, love, hate, anger. These are these are the emotions, the people which are with us since time immemorial. See, in this story, suppose I have written the 𝐼𝐴 story, and how Heer and Ranja were from people from two different backgrounds were in love, and they had their share of big struggles, and Ranja became a disciple of Gorakhnath to find inspiration to get his love back, Heer back, So it was the love. See, we don't know how many years of these stories have been doing the round, but the Saint Gorakhnath was 11th century saint, and obviously this story might be of suppose 1000 or 800-year old story. Its origin might have been, but still, when these stories, you find Ketan Mehta making a film on the 𝐼𝐴 Nalin Verma and Neil Rathmel writing these stories, and still people loving the ballads and the stories, not because the stories have lost its time, lost its relevance. Why a boy still when a mother sings about Channa Mama, he starts he weeps and cries, and what is Channa Mama? It means it fascinates him. And the 𝐼𝐴 story or Sorthi Brijwar love his story, they are old stories. So Rudyard Kipling's Jungle Book is still doing the rounds on the internet. All these things he wrote in 1895, Shera, Mowgli, Bagheera, all these things. So see, timelessness, because these stories touch the human sensibilities, emotions, and which are eternal, which are going on in the human mind for the time being. So even if you are cacophony, you are in noise, many things. These stories, when a bird. When a crow talking to a sparrow, you start thinking about it. It's not a matter of belief. It's a part of our civilization, like the ghosts. Horror is a very popular genre in all across the world, even today. And there are many magazines which were vampires and ghosts and all these elements, and people, Harry Potter, what they are all about. They are from the ancient times, and still people enjoy it. So what I want to say, this is timelessness. These stories have the timelessness. Even if you write in today internet and this OTT era or the TV era or the radio era or even beyond that, the stories were there, and because they deal with the emotions, basic emotions, the people which are with the advent of the mankind. That's why they are eternal. And even today, Twinkle, you will find if someone talks about ghosts, you will even if you are going to sleep, you will feel feared. At the same time, you will read horror stories. These are the things which deal with the human emotions, and that's why they are eternal and they are escape also. And that's why literature should be written and the stories should be told, whatever the situation is.
Right. So, to add to what you're saying, in terms of timelessness, that is actually the hallmark of our ancient Vedic culture. Actually, it is timeless. And you know why it's timeless? All these stories that tell us about, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Puranas, all these, the Panchatantra, the Hitopadesha, there are so many, stories that are part of our Vedic culture. And the reason why they are still read today and still appreciated after thousands of years, Ramayana and Mahabharata and all are thousands of years old. They're not yesterday. And yet we appreciate them today. And why? It's because there's one thing about them is that they are universal. You see, they're not about religion. They're about universal human feelings. You mentioned emotions. That's what the human condition. So all our Vedic Shastras are about our human nature, about us as human beings. Even though the situation may be different, like if you look at the Ramayana, the situation is very different today. But we face the same challenges, the same emotional challenges. If you just think, Sri Ram was supposed to be made the Yuvraj, right? Of a kingdom like Ayodhya, which was not a small kingdom. In those days, it was like a superpower, you would think. So he was supposed to be, and then the next day, he had to go to the forest with nothing. So he was like from, probably the most important person of the time to become like a pauper. But how he handled it. Now, if you look at it, that situation may not occur today because we don't have kings and that doesn't occur. But that same emotion we go through today. 1 minute you may be the CEO of a big company. The next minute you may be fired. You know what I'm saying? So,
yes.
You have to, the same emotion is what we relate to. That is timeless. So even though the setting the same with the Mahabharata, exactly the same. When I wrote the book on the Bhagavad Gita, one of the things that really resonated with me is that Arjuna is all of us. Each of us, we are Arjuna. It's not like he's a character who was there in Dwapara Yuga, Krishna taught him something, it's a book for the puja room. No, it is a very real situation. He, at the beginning of that battle, was in a panic attack. He was, he felt, I cannot do this job that I'm supposed to do, which was his duty because he was a soldier. And even today, a soldier, if he goes to the battlefield, he has to fight. He cannot say, I'm going home. I've changed my mind. I'm not fighting. Today, that's not allowed. It's court-martialable offense for a soldier. Yes. So, if you think about it, yet those feelings can come up. There are times in life for all of us, maybe not on, well, my book is called Life is a Battlefield because we all face our battles in life. And we all face that moment when we are, up against something that's unpleasant, where we feel, I can't deal with this. I can't do this. And, we collapse emotionally, and we're not able to face the challenge. That was Arjuna's problem. And the whole of the Bhagavad Gita is just Sri Krishna not telling him what to do, explaining to him who he is. And once he realizes that I am beyond this body, which is what I started with, when we began our discussion, that once you realize that and you internalize it, when I say realize, I mean actually internalizing it. Once you internalize that, then fear goes away, fear disappears. And, it seems strange to say, but in my life, for 50 years of my life, I had absolutely zero interest in anything of this. I was like not interested in religion, not interested in Indian philosophy or any philosophy, to be honest. I was just living my life. And then when I got introduced to Vedanta and Bhagavad Gita, which is Bhagavad Gita's Vedanta, but when I got introduced to this, I found, oh my gosh, I've missed out my entire life. I've missed out on this knowledge, which is so sound. It is the knowledge that gives you, as I said, happiness and fearlessness. And that's all it does. So it doesn't matter. The beauty of it is, it doesn't matter what religion you follow. It does not matter whether you believe in God or not. It's still valid. It's that universal. So,
Yes.
It is talking to you at a level of spirituality and not at the level of division, at the level that we are all one. Because at the spiritual level, if you're a spiritual person, it doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter what your race is. It doesn't matter what your religion. It doesn't matter what your gender is. Because at the spiritual level, we are all one. Where we become divided is at the physical level. And so that's why it's so important. And our rishis of the old days, they realized this, that if we have to be united as a people, all of us, the whole world, I mean, then we have to think of ourselves at the spiritual. We have to relate to each other at that level, which is where Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam comes. That famous Mahavakya, the Vakya from the Upanishads, it comes from that. It says that, in the end, we are all the same, irrespective of where we come from, male or female. This does not matter. We are identical inside, our spirit. It's only in our physical form and our behavior that we are different. So, yeah, I think that there is a timelessness especially in our ancient stories. Mahabharata and Ramayana are absolutely, they were bestsellers, I would say, they've been for thousands of years. We've been listening to them and enjoying them.